Jeremy often felt a profound sense of loneliness. He longed for a connection that seemed to elude him. Birthdays and holidays brought a familiar wave of disappointment. The gifts, though given with good intentions, felt empty and impersonal. They lacked the language of understanding, the whisper of his soul's desire. Jeremy yearned for a gift that spoke to the depths of his being, a gift that said, "I see you." He would often retreat into his own world of books and music. There he found solace and a sense of belonging that eluded him in the physical world. The characters in his novels became his confidants, their stories echoing his own unvoiced yearnings. The melodies of his favorite composers resonated with the unspoken language of his heart. Yet, despite the comfort he found in solitude, Jeremy harbored a flicker of hope. He believed that somewhere, someone held the capacity to understand the language of his soul. He clung to the belief that true connection was not a myth, but a possibility waiting to be discovered. One night, a fierce storm raged outside Jeremy's window. The wind howled like a banshee, and rain lashed against the glass. It mirrored the turmoil brewing within him, a maelstrom of emotions threatening to consume him. Disappointment and a yearning for connection warred within his heart. He felt utterly alone. Jeremy retreated to his favorite armchair, seeking solace in a well-worn copy of Les Misérables. He immersed himself in the story of Jean Valjean, finding kinship in the ex-convict's struggle for redemption and love. As the storm outside reached its crescendo, a sudden sharp rap on the window startled Jeremy. He looked up, his heart pounding in his chest, and saw a figure standing on the other side of the glass. The figure was shrouded in shadow, its features indistinguishable in the darkness. But there was something about its presence, an aura of quiet power, that both intrigued and unsettled Jeremy. Hesitantly, he rose from his chair and made his way to the window. As he unlatched it, a gust of wind slammed the window open, extinguishing the candle and plunging the room into darkness. Jeremy stumbled back, fear gripping his heart. And then he heard a voice, soft and melodic, cutting through the roar of the storm. "Do not be afraid, Jeremy," the voice said. "I am here to help you." The voice was soothing, calming the storm within Jeremy's heart. He peered into the darkness, trying to make out the speaker. Slowly, his eyes adjusted to the gloom, revealing the figure standing in his living room. It was tall and slender, its form draped in a long, flowing robe. The hood of the robe had fallen back, revealing a face that was both beautiful and strangely unsettling. It was a face that seemed to exist outside of time, etched with a wisdom that spoke of eons. The stranger's eyes, however, held a warmth and kindness that belied its otherworldly appearance. "Who are you?" Jeremy asked, his voice barely a whisper. "And how did you get in here?" The stranger smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "I am here because you called to me, Jeremy," it said. "Your heart, so full of unspoken love, resonated with the very fabric of existence. I heard your plea, and I have come to offer you a gift." Jeremy frowned, confused. "A gift?" he echoed, "but I don't understand. Who are you?" The stranger took a step closer, and Jeremy noticed a faint glow emanating from its hand. As the stranger extended its hand, the glow intensified, revealing a small, intricately carved amulet resting in its palm. The amulet pulsed with a soft inner light, captivating Jeremy's gaze. It was crafted from a material he couldn't identify, smooth and cool to the touch, yet radiating a gentle warmth. Its surface was etched with strange symbols that seemed to shift and writhe like living things. "What is it?" Jeremy asked, his voice barely a whisper. He was drawn to the amulet, mesmerized by its ethereal glow. "This, Jeremy," the stranger said, its voice soft as velvet, "is the amulet of unreturned love. It holds within it the essence of every act of kindness, every expression of love you have ever given that has not been reciprocated. It carries the weight of your unspoken affections, the warmth of your unrequited love. Jeremy's breath hitched in his throat. The stranger's words resonated deep within him, awakening a familiar ache in his chest. He had always given freely of himself, offering love and understanding without reservation. Yet more often than not, his gestures were met with indifference or misunderstanding. He carried the weight of those unreturned affections like invisible stones upon his heart. "Take it, Jeremy," the stranger urged, gently pressing the amulet into his hand. "Let it remind you that your love is never wasted, even when it seems to go unseen. It is a testament to the boundless capacity of your heart." Section 5. The weight of unspoken love. As Jeremy's fingers closed around the amulet, a jolt of energy surged through him. He gasped, startled by the intensity of the sensation. It felt as though a dam had broken within him, releasing a torrent of emotions he had kept bottled up for so long. He looked down at the amulet, its glow intensifying, and realized it was pulsing in sync with his own heartbeat. It was as though the amulet had become an extension of himself, a physical manifestation of his own vulnerabilities and unspoken yearnings. Overwhelmed, Jeremy sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. For the first time, he allowed himself to fully acknowledge the pain of his unreturned affections, the weight of his loneliness. But as the tears flowed, a strange sense of release washed over him. The amulet grew warmer in his hand, its gentle heat spreading outward, enveloping him in a comforting embrace. It was as though the amulet was absorbing his pain, transmuting it into something else entirely. He looked up at the stranger, his eyes filled with questions. But the stranger was gone, vanished as quickly and mysteriously as it had appeared. The only evidence of its presence was the amulet clutched tightly in Jeremy's hand. In the days that followed, Jeremy couldn't stop thinking about the stranger and the enigmatic amulet. He found himself drawn to it, compelled to hold it, to feel its warmth against his skin. It was as though the amulet possessed a strange power, a subtle energy that resonated with his own. And then, slowly, subtly, things began to change. Jeremy noticed a shift within himself, a newfound sense of peace and self-acceptance. It wasn't that the pain of his past had vanished entirely, but rather, it no longer held the same power over him. The amulet, he realized, wasn't a magic charm that erased his sorrows. Instead, it served as a constant reminder of his own capacity for love, a tangible symbol of the strength he possessed within himself. He began to approach his interactions with others with a renewed sense of hope and openness. He no longer sought validation or reciprocation for his affections. Instead, he offered his love freely, without expectation, finding joy in the simple act of giving. As Jeremy embraced this newfound sense of self-acceptance, he noticed a shift in how others perceived him. It was as though the light that now shone from within him, fueled by the unconditional love he had embraced, had become impossible to ignore. People who had once seemed indifferent to his presence now sought him out, drawn to his quiet strength and unwavering kindness. Friends and family who had long taken his affections for granted began to see him with new eyes, recognizing the depth of his empathy and the sincerity of his heart. Jeremy's life, once defined by loneliness and unfulfilled longing, began to blossom with connection and joy. He discovered that true happiness wasn't found in seeking love from others, but in embracing the love that resided within himself. He realized that the greatest gift the amulet had bestowed upon him wasn't magical powers or the promise of reciprocation. It was the gift of self-discovery, the realization that true love begins with loving oneself. One evening, as Jeremy sat by the fire, the amulet warm in his hand, he was struck by a profound realization. The stranger, he now understood, wasn't some supernatural being, but a manifestation of his own subconscious, a reflection of his deepest fears and desires. The storm that had raged that night, the darkness that had enveloped him, they were all metaphors for the turmoil he had been experiencing within himself. The stranger had merely served as a guide, a catalyst that had forced him to confront his own pain and embrace the transformative power of unconditional love. He realized that the answers he had been seeking all along hadn't resided in some external source, but within the depths of his own being. The amulet, with its strange symbols and ethereal glow, was nothing more than a tool, a physical representation of the journey he'd undertaken. It was the journey itself, the process of self-discovery and acceptance that had truly transformed him. Jeremy continued to wear the amulet, not as a source of power or a guarantee of happiness, but as a reminder of the lessons he had learned. It served as a tangible symbol of his own resilience, a testament to the transformative power of love. He no longer sought to change himself to fit in or to earn the affections of others. Instead, he embraced his authentic self, flaws and all, knowing that true connection could only be forged through vulnerability and acceptance. Jeremy discovered that the greatest gift he could offer others was the gift of his true self, the gift of his unconditional love and acceptance. And in doing so, he finally found the connection he had been yearning for all along, a connection that transcended the superficial and touched the very core of his being.